So today, finally, we have the new Wilderness Boss rework, and this morning I had a bit of a dilemma. Do I wake up early, go into the wilderness, try to kill the new boss for content, probably get PK'd and die? No, I decided not to do that. Instead, we're going to have a day one look at what the market kind of looks like right after a large scope update. So with the Wilderness Boss rework, there's a bunch of new items that were added. One that just became tradable literally 10 minutes ago, so we'll be able to see what the first sale or two actually goes for. Now just to quickly cover the new items that were added with this update, we have firstly an upgraded version of all of the wilderness weapons. So there's an upgrade to the crossbow, which is now called the Web Weaver bow. There's an upgrade to the Vigor's chain mace, which is now the Ursine chain mace. And there's an upgrade to the Thammaron scepter, which is now called the Accursed scepter. Now beyond that though, there is still one more weapon that was added, the Voidwalker. And we're gonna have a look at that item first. Now for some reason when the update released, the Voidwalker and all of the component items were not tradable on the Grand Exchange. So just as of about 20 minutes ago, they finally did a cold fix to the game and made it so you can indeed trade them. And right now, the combined Voidwalker blade is going for 700 mil right now, which is really expensive. Now the reason it might be so costly is because the Voidwalker is created by combining 3 separate pieces, which are obtained from Vedion, Callisto, and Venenatis. So currently these items are pretty rare, and collecting all 3 of them quite a pain. It looks like the first one sold for around 600 mil, but some may have been traded person to person before this update. Now next up here we have the Web Weaver bow, which actually looked like the first couple sold for around 75 mil each, but proceeded to quickly jump up to around 150 mil, and has remained pretty consistent there for the last couple of hours. The crossbow historically has been the most used wilderness weapon, so I imagine the Web Weaver bow will retain the highest value of the 3 upgrades. But for the immediate future, it'll really depend on what ends up being the best meta for killing the new bosses, because that is where a lot of the hype and demand is right now. Currently there are not a ton traded, but new update, not many in the game. So after that we have the Ursine chain mace, which has gone up a lot since the release of it. The first couple sold for 30 mil each, and after that it jumped up to over 70 mil. And honestly, lately I've noticed this trend a lot. Maybe not to this degree, but often when a new update comes out, the price actually starts lower than it maybe should have, then will jump up very quickly in the first couple of hours. Usually in the first 24 hours, this price will crash by a significant amount, but then we'll have a big bounce back sometime after the first day. We saw this trend with the Venator bow very recently, and I kind of expect something similar to happen with these wilderness weapons as well, but we'll have to keep tracking that. So next up here we have the Accursed scepter, which is the upgrade to the Thammaron scepter. Now there are 2 versions of this, and I find this kind of odd. There's the Accursed scepter U, which is the normal version, and then there's also the Accursed scepter AU, which is the Australian version. And then there's the Accursed scepter AU, which is simply a version that will cast ancient magics. And this is simply just a swap interface on the item, so I find it really weird that there are 2 tradable items on the Grand Exchange. You can both buy the Accursed scepter AU or the regular U one. Most people seem to be purchasing the normal version though, and it's going currently for around 50 mil. Now for the most part, the upgraded wilderness weapons aren't quite as expensive as I thought they'd be on day one, but for the most part they are simply a slightly stronger version with a different special attack. So while the upgraded versions are significantly stronger, their uses will probably remain pretty well the same, just with a different special attack. Now the final 3 new items are simply the precursor items to the upgrades. We have the Fang of Venenatis, which upgrades the crossbow, worth about 100 mil right now. The Skull of Vedion, worth about 47 mil, that will upgrade the Thammaron scepter. And the Claws of Callisto, which are about 60 mil. But that kind of begs the question, what has happened to the price of the original Wildy weapons? Well, in the case of all 3, there was a gigantic sell-off. I mean, look at the amount traded coming up to the update. Here we have the crossbow, which for the week was slowly going up, worth about 35 mil when the update dropped, and then proceeded to crash tremendously down to about 25 mil or so right now. Just a massive crash, and hasn't really recovered yet. We also have the Thammaron scepter, which was holding pretty steady at 6.7 mil or so. Update comes out a few hours later, and boom, massive crash down to 3.6 mil. pretty much lost 50% of its value in just 2 hours. And the same thing happened to the Vigorous Chain Mace, going from 13.2 mil down to 7 mil, again losing about 50% of its value. The only difference here is the Chain Mace actually is recovering, where the other two are not. So it seems like the Chain Mace might have a larger use than the other two currently, but that's such a significant price crash. I definitely didn't expect something so dramatic. So that kind of begs the question, why did the wilderness weapons crash so much? I mean, hell, you actually need those weapons to create the new powerful version, so there's kind of an item sink even integrated into the update. Why has their value been almost cut in half? Well, alongside today's update, the base drop rate for the wilderness weapons, the original ones, has been significantly increased. I knew something was happening with the drop rates, but I personally found it very hard to keep track of what they were actually changing. I think a lot of other people may have as well. But as of today, the base drop rates of the Revenant weapons have been increased by 50%, on top of them being 5 times more likely on a Slayer task. And this is a significant increase. Now, these weapons were significantly rare before, and I will say Revenant Slayer tasks are not super common, but that's still a load more Revenant weapons that are going to be coming into the game. And that is on top of the fact that many of these weapons were already at all-time highs, so they were really inflated leading up to the update, which often leads to a very big sell-off. I would expect these items to recover a bit though. Now, another item that has received a significant change today is the Dragon Pickaxe. The Dragon Pickaxe price as of today went from about 6.7 mil and immediately crashed down to about 4.4 mils. So around a 30% decrease just after the update. And that's because the Dragon Pickaxe is now much more available. Now, it's still available from the Wilderness bosses, but now on top of that, it's available from the Cowfight Queen as well as the Volcanic Mine. Not to mention this item was already pretty inflated from TOA, that now it seems pretty likely the value is going to drop by a lot. Sure, Cowfight Queen is still annoying to kill, Volcanic Mine, not that many people do it, but I would argue it's still significantly easier than doing Venenatus, for example. Another item I wanted to quickly look at that I thought could be affected by today's update, the Blighted Super Restore. This item dropped by about 10 or 15% after today's update. So although the Blighted Super Restore is being used, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's still cheaper than using regular Super Restores. I think many people had hoarded quite a lot of these and are probably dumping them now, just based on how every single existing item has reacted to the update, i.e. dropped a hell of a lot. It seems like there was a pretty solid dump of items right at the update, and we might have to wait a little bit further to see how in demand many of these items actually are. And the final item I wanted to have a look at is actually the Ring of the Gods. It's one of the original unique items from the Wildy bosses beyond the Dragon Pickaxe. It's currently dropped from 18 mil down to around 15 mil. So it's definitely losing value, but it's hard to determine whether that is because Callisto is a lot easier to kill now, or just because so many people are doing the content that the price is just dropping from the sheer volume. Or as always, it could of course just be people selling just in case. Let me know what you guys think as always. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Now quickly before I go here, I just want to thank all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Alejandra, Prophet of the Boosh, Mitch Reinders, The Hybrid, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. Also a giant thank you to YoYoSup89 and NDM0001 for subscribing at the Runite tier. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.